Hello, sportsmen. You know, by the middle of May, usually the leaves have been popping out on the hardwoods. They're just starting right here, but we're on a little lake up in northern Michigan. Got a fly rod with a wet fly, a spinning rod with a spinner bait. I got one hooked up for worms. I don't know what we're going to catch, but we're going to have some fun. And you're going to want to watch our graceful send-off here, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. You're watching The Practical Sportsman. Yeah. Look at that. Ah, spring on a northern Michigan lake. Looks like April, doesn't it? Leaves aren't out on the trees. The weather isn't warm by any means. But it's Monday, May 13th. The spring of 1996 has been way behind schedule. Okay, now, we have to launch this little aluminum boat. Matt, why don't you just shove us off and jump in the boat? Here's where we find out if we're going to have to get a health rider. There we go, Matt. On board. Oh,
that's
okay.
it.
Well, that's it. That's as far as we got. The first launch of the year, a semi-success. Okay. We get around the lake the old-fashioned way, one oar at a time. This is cool, though, isn't it, Matt? I like the looks of this. Okay, so you're wondering why I'm rowing this boat backwards. Get your own boat. Row however you want. That's the beauty of the outdoors, I'll tell you. Ah, self-sufficiency. Okay, I'll turn her around here. We got some lily pads here. These are old lily pads from last year. Now, my experience is that there's fish around these lily pads, around the drop-offs. Of course, this being the middle of May, it's not red-hot fishing by any stretch. We've had some cold weather in here just this past weekend. But we'll go up here, Matt. We'll try a few things.
Sounds good.
Now we'll drift. The wind is going to blow us back here. But the best crack at an area of fishing is when you first come into it, before you spook the fish out of the way. So we want to cast up in front of the boat. I think I'll use the spinner bait here. Oftentimes, the early casts produce the best. Right up along. Oh man, you should have seen that. That was good. That was real good. Oh, there we go. There we go. What did I tell you, Johnny?
You're on the money.
I'm on the money.
Not
Oh, cool. You know, I feel like pretty hot stuff right now, making a call like that. It's either a pike or a bass, and there's nothing. It let go.
Now how hot do you feel?
Well, I don't feel quite as hot as that. I'm not going to have to wear my shades. Okay, but I'm going to go back for him. Oh, that was another good cast. Hey, frankly, that fish wasn't all that big. I mean, it was a fish. It just wasn't that big. I make the call pike. No, is that a bass? That's a bass, isn't it? That's the thing. You don't know what you're going to catch at this time of year. Ooh, not a bad one. Whoa. Yeah. Look at that. Awesome. Let's see. You want to try to get... There we go. Okay, well, since Jimmy Houston isn't here, this fish is not going to get kissed. Looks like it maybe got nicked there at some time in the past. Largemouth bass. At this time of year, she's all catch and release. Well, two weeks, season opens. There it goes. Huh. But there's pike in here. Big crappie. Big crappie. Huge crappie. As a matter of fact. We'd like to catch. Now, bass season doesn't open on inland lakes in Michigan until Memorial Day, but the season for most other species is open right now, and we'll sneak up on them. A lot of people ask me, what's the secret to your rowing success, Fred? And well, you got to work out, got to keep your muscle tone up, eat right, get plenty of sleep, and you have to have good equipment too. Oar locks are a very important part of rowing. Right here, you notice this oar lock. Well, it isn't in the best of repair, but Matt has used a fishing stringer to keep that one in place, more or less. And over here, this is actually apparently a part of a June bug spinner that keeps this oar lock from coming loose. But those are the keys to success. Have good equipment, keep it in good repair, keep your body in good shape.
Hey, if you want to buy a rowing machine, don't. Let me take you fishing. You can row for me.
Ooh. He's running. Ooh. I would say this sounds like a pike. Sounds like a pike. Now this was right in the weeds. Ooh. Ooh. I'm sorry, all I can say is ooh.
That's okay. Describes it pretty well right now.
Whatever this is.
Bass?
Is that a bass?
Yeah. That's a good size
That
bass.
is a good size one. Holy cow. Now the wind's blowing. There we go. Now this is a dandy. Now that was right in the weeds, John. Oh, look at that. Early season stuff. That one really hit this hook. They got tough mouths.
Yeah, you can see it's all the way through the other. There you go.
Jeez, that's a good heavy one. Look at that belly on it. See, it hadn't spawned yet.
Awesome.
Can't tell if it's a female. Fish had hair, we could tell.
Well, actually, you can't tell by the length of the hair anymore. You can't tell by how they dress either. I think nowadays you can only tell by what kind of tattoos they have.
These are called leaf worms. They're little, teeny, like garden worms. But the idea in the spring like this is to use worms that are small. Ice fishing bait is real tiny. Wax worms, mousies. In fact, they'd work now too. I'm putting these on a hook that's about a size 14 hook. I'm kind of wadding it up. Some people just let it dangle. Maybe that's what I should do, not have it wadded up quite so much. Anyway, there it is on a size 14 hook, and I'm using the old European style float here that Craig Scoff taught me. What I have here, John, is a little 14 hook, 12 or 14 with a leaf worm, and then a small split shot right there. Up about 6 inches, a larger split shot. Up above that, another 8 or 10 inches, a larger split shot. And the idea is the bobber that I'm using is a European style float, and I really only want the top of this out of the water, so I'm trying to weight it so it's neutral density, neutral buoyancy. And these little things here, can you see that little blue deal on there?
Yep.
Well, that's just a little rubber tube that you have to hook onto the line before you put the hook on. And then these tubes go around each end of the bobber right there. There's that other tube right there. But that's what holds the bobber on. And then you can slip it up and down. So I'm going to slip it up. I guess I'll put it down here so we can see how it floats in the water. The idea of having these 3 split shot on here, you can see this when I put it down in the water, how, see, the first one takes it down a little bit and it sort of naturally falls down there. But look at that float there, Johnny. Doesn't that look good? Slightest little twitch there, I'll be able to see it even from a distance. Now, how far down to put it? At this time of year, you don't have to put it on the bottom. The fish can be suspended. They can be cruising around at different levels. And what they're feeding on at this time of year is a lot of aquatic insects. Of course, there aren't earthworms in the water, but they go for earthworms for some darn reason. It's very traditional. But I guess maybe 6 feet down. Figure the fish might come up for that. So this is a ultralight reel on a medium action rod. Why have balanced tackle? I mean, This is more realistic, like a lot of guys fish. But there it is. As soon as that, see, oh, isn't that cool? I love fishing with floats. See, the real European style purists call these floats, not bobbers. Bobbers are the Dayton, the red and white ones. Little balls sit out there. But this is a float. And if a fish so much as sucks that baby in, I'll see it. That wind is really humming. See, the wind is blowing the boat, but it's not blowing the bobber. The float, excuse me.
Well, the European anglers have all kinds of specialized floats. And this is the first time I tried this style, but hey, it worked really well.
I got a fish on this bobber deal.
Float.
Float, excuse me, all the heck. Ooh, isn't that something? I cast it, ooh, towards the shallows. I gotta stop saying ooh, I hate that. I hate that when people on TV shows, nice fish, nice fish. So excuse me, folks. It's coming up, it's coming up.
Is it a good size one?
You know what was funny about that? The float went down, and I thought I had a little bluegill or something. I just started to tighten up the line, and now it's much more than a bluegill. And that's on this little teeny 12 or 14 hook. Oh, this is awesome.
Is that coming up yet?
No, well, the line is fairly flat.
Is it taking line at all?
Yes. Well, what I've been doing here is, see if I put this on.
Oh, you're back reeling.
It makes that obnoxious noise, and then I have to loosen the drag, and I don't know how tight the drag is. I can fiddle around here and loose this.
Let's actually see what this one is.
Yeah, we'd like to. Could be a crappie. Ooh.
That's typically
This
soft mouth.
this is an old reel. Old reel. I haven't used this in 10 years.
Right there.
Okay, so it's coming up. Yeah, I'd almost rather I flip this little lever here, and then I back reel when it takes line.
Mark Martin is always big on that.
Yeah.
Was it a pike?
Oh, bluegill.
A bluegill?
Big bluegill. Crappie.
Crappie.
Bluegill.
It is a crappie. No, it
It
is
is
a
a
crappie.
crappie.
It's a big crappie. That's exactly what we were after. Oh yes. Oh man.
Don't lose
Oh, I'm
it.
loving this to death. Oh, I'm loving this. Look, it's hooked in the lip, too. Now, we don't have a net, do we? Of course not. Why would we have a net? Why in the world?
Don't you dare lose that.
Oh, it's gone. I lost it. Oh, did you see that? Yeah. I have it right by the chinny chin here. Whoa, man. Oh, that was a save. That was a save. Ozzy. Yes. Holy cow. Isn't that something else?
That is.
Huh? Now, you people think I'm going to throw this back? Yeah. Take a chill pill. Do something. Oh, this is great. Man, there's some good eating on that. Aren't they pretty?
Yeah, that's a better angle.
See that, like the blue colors in there, and these fish really are pretty when you take them right out of the water. Man, that was a kick.
That was
cool. Go ahead, say it. That was cool. Very cool.
Well, this was very cool indeed for a number of reasons. Being our first small lake trip of the year, it was very cool to use this smaller than average hook and smaller than average worm and catch a larger than average crappie. And it was cool to launch the boat from shore. Neither Matt nor I fell in the water or in the boat, so we don't need a Nordic track. And it was cool to be able to cast from shore without tangling on weeds in the water or being pestered by thousands of mosquitoes around our heads. And that'll be coming later in the season, though. And naturally, it was very cool to hook into and land a 13-inch crappie by the lip. And that evening, the taste of these fresh crappie fillets dipped in spicy flour and fried in butter. Oh, wow. Fishing is cool. That's all there is to it. The summer of 1996 could be an interesting one for Michigan sportsmen. Two movements are afoot by animal rights groups. One's a referendum on bear hunting in Michigan. The history behind this controversy really started with a trespass problem by one landowner in the Upper Peninsula. He didn't like bear hunters and their packs of hounds crossing his property. Well, he took it to court, and he lost. He went to the DNR and got no satisfaction. He asked the legislature for help, but they didn't. So he decided to solve his trespass problem by eliminating the kind of bear hunting that caused hunters to trespass on his land. He teamed up with animal rights activists who are collecting signatures to put the issue of bear hunting on the ballot this fall. This bear referendum is the first challenge of its kind to hunting in Michigan. And a second issue that's drawing a lot of attention but not a lot of support has been in the news recently. You may have seen headlines saying, "Pro-fish activists wage war on anglers." The group waging the war is PETA, and as the articles say, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals this summer will hit coastal spots, lakes, and fishing holes around the country, beating the waters for a ban on sport fishing. The tactics they'll use, according to their leaders, are to maneuver their boats among fishing boats to scare off fish. They plan to disrupt big-money fishing tournaments. They're considering blockading piers, and they're encouraging their supporters to skip rocks in the water where people are fishing. Now, the leading group that's standing up to this harassment of hunters and anglers is the newly formed Michigan Sportsman Congress. Their executive director is Kyle Randall, who speaks about these problems in a very persuasive way.
As you know, you went down 2 weeks ago on our behalf and spoke at the press conference for Senator Geek's proposed law to prevent harassment of fishermen in the state of Michigan. And while really I think it's sad that we have to have that kind of law here, we certainly support it. And I went to the House of Representatives today, being Tuesday, and asked for an amendment to that law that called for mandatory jail time and the maximum fine on anyone convicted under the statutes of that law for harassing a minor. I'm not worried about somebody coming out and harassing Kyle Randall if he's out fishing. Quite frankly, if you want to harass me, come right ahead. I'll leave a note where I am. But if you think for 1 minute that you're going to harass children in my state who have chosen not to sit in a mall, not to join a gang, but rather go out and for God's sakes, learn how to feed themselves, and then you're going to go harass them and embarrass them and shame them into not participating, we shouldn't stand for that for 1 second in this state. And quite frankly, if you're convicted of doing that, you should fry. And that's why we offered the amendment. I think it was very well received, and I look to see it included as part of the package. I think it's a sad thing we have to do that in Michigan, but we as a state, as parents, as responsible adults, have to stand up and say, no, 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 our children are totally off limits. To you, to every echo-wacko on the planet, you don't come here and harass the young people of Michigan.
Kyle Randall isn't bashful about standing up for sportsmen, which is why a growing number of clubs are joining the Michigan Sportsman Congress. Next week, we're doing a special feature with Kyle on the proposed referendum to curtail bear hunting in Michigan. And what's this all about, and what effects will it have on the people of Michigan? Well, the impact of stopping bear hunting will reach much further and cause more problems for the general public than you might imagine. We'll talk about Michigan bears next week. If you're looking for a panfish recipe that's different, easy, and spectacular, Carol Felstow from New Haven, Michigan has the answer. You start with English muffins. Put the halves on a cookie sheet, spread a good bit of Thousand Island dressing on each half, top that with a thin slice of a red, ripe tomato, then put your fish fillets on the tomato. Now, a couple of delectable little bluegill fillets or perch or crappie. If you use fillets from a large fish like walleye, slice the piece of fish so it's fairly thin so it'll cook quickly. Now, the last ingredient is a slice of Swiss cheese or mozzarella. Put these under the broiler. They'll be done when the cheese melts. Broiled fish on English muffins, totally outstanding. The ultimate reward from a day of fishing. If you'd like a copy of our TV recipes for the month of May, we can send out all 4 of them to you in the May issue of the Practical Sportsman magazine. The new monthly format also contains trophy data from this month. 14% of the year's trophies are caught in May. Learn which species and where they're caught. Sportsman in the Law section has questions and answers of law by practical attorney Sal Ghani. Matt Radzalowski has do-it-yourself plans, practical products sent in by you viewers. And we've added a new section for the Michigan Sportsman Congress. Read an extended interview with Kyle Randall to learn what this organization is all about. All this and more is in the Practical Sportsman Monthly magazine. Drop us a line for a free copy of the May issue. We'll also send you information on how you can get the magazine and become a member of the Michigan Sportsman Congress at the same time. That's P.O. Box 1001, Bath, Michigan, 48808. Let us know you're interested, and we'll send you a copy of the May issue right away. Audrey Lam. Audrey Lam from Canton was still fishing a crawler. Wixom Lake, Gladwin County, and there it is. Audrey in her summer dress with her 10.5-inch bluegill. What's it take, Audrey, to catch a bluegill like that?
Well, what I did was just throw out my line with the worm on it, and it was like 4 feet deep, and I was just like waiting, and me and my dad were taking turns catching bluegills, and then I caught this one, and I took it up to my dad, and he goes, "What a fish," and he put it in the basket, so then I caught another one this size, and I mounted that one, and I threw this one back. So then we had all these fish to fillet, and they were good to eat because we like bluegills and stuff to eat.
Oh, they're tops.
Mm-hmm.
So, but why'd you throw this one back?
Because it was like a little bit smaller than the other one, and I wanted to keep one to mount it and throw one back so that someone else could have a chance.
Well, that's nice of you. You get one mounted, one for other people to catch, and the rest for you to eat. That sounds like a great deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have a heck of a summer this summer fishing, okay? Mm-hmm. Catch some big ones. Audrey Lam from Canton. Don't you just love the month of May? It's coming up in June, because now we have April, which has been going on. We got blown off the water. Well, we didn't even get out on the Captain Nichols at South Haven on Saturday. 25-mile-an-hour winds from the north. Oh, no way. However, on Monday, they did quite well. 18 anglers took 200 perch. That's about 11 each. They're dandy size, too. They also caught a 9-pound burbot and a 5-pound coho. Up here at Best Chance, the kings and lake trout, good. And steelhead limits. Take a look at this steelhead. This is what we're talking about. Bill Newell from Saranac caught this. This was the 13th of May in a previous year, but that is 21.5 pounds. I tell you, that's great. Well, get up here to Whitehall. They're getting pike, browns, brown limits, and this is, of course, offshore here. Captain Amel is getting some limits of browns. Lake Cadillac, bluegill limits, bullheads. Excellent. Good time to catch bullheads, believe it or not. You think it's in the summer, but right now is good. They're getting some dandy size ones. Let's flip over here to the UP. Little Bay to knock. Steelhead are good in the rivers. Perch fishing is slow. They do have ice. There's still people ice fishing up here, believe it or not. Ontonagon, getting a couple steelhead, whitefish in the rivers. Houghton, smelt is best at Dollar Bay, at least according to a few days ago. Getting some steelhead. Lindquists, steelhead is slow. They've had a rough winter here for fishing, but take a look at this lake trout that was caught May 22nd, 1994. This was off of Marquette. Doug Young from Nagani took this one. That baby, 43 inches long. Oh, he's hoisting it up there, 27 pounds, 5 ounces. Let's see, get over here to the east end of the UP. The smelt run is done on Drummond Island. Perch are good. They're getting them up to 12 inches. Indian River getting walleye up to 5 pounds. A couple steelhead in the Bear River. Bucks Bait and Tackle in Alpena reports a couple brown trout, 2 to 3 per angler, and lake trout limits. Now down here at Oscoda, I don't know, the smelt, been a bum year for smelt. Getting a couple walleye, although dandy size, 7-pounders with some steelhead limits. Down at Frank's in Linwood, he says off the Tawas Pier, that's right up the coast a little bit, Tawas Pier, they're getting 2 to 3 walleye, 7 to 8-pounders. This is also a good time to troll right along shore on Lake Huron there and catch walleye. Perch and smelt fishing has been slow. Over here, right there in Gratiot County, take a look at what this fellow caught, Brian Juhas from St. John's. Got this out of Rainbow Lake. This crappie, believe it or not, he must be a pretty big guy. That baby's 16.5 inches long, 2 pounds, 6 ounces. Crappie on a Mr. Twister. Took that at the end of the month, sort of a Memorial Day weekend type deal. Over here, well, let's see, back to Frank's here, the Tittabawassee River, which comes right down here, right behind here. Tittabawassee, look what they're catching at Tittabawassee. Now is the time to get out and catch white bass. Larry Kubiet from Okemos got this on the 13th of May on a MEP spinner. That's a 16 5/8 inch white bass. They're fun to catch. I'll get down here to Port Huron. The smelt run's about over.
They are getting some kings off Lexington. Mill Creek says they're getting some fair crappie fishing. Good time of year to fish crappies. Detroit River, walleye, lots of limits, 3 to 5 pounders. In fact, here's a guy who went down farther than the Detroit River, got into Lake Erie. Jim Malinowski from Taylor got that 29 1/4 ounce walleye, 7 pounds 6 ounces from Lake Erie. Big ones. Now it's a good time to get fishing. Get outdoors if you can. It's a great place to be, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, that's a better angle.
See that, like the blue colors in there, and these fish really are pretty when you take them right out of the water. Man, that was a kick.
That was
cool. Go ahead, say it. That was cool. Very cool.
Well, this was very cool indeed for a number of reasons. Being our first small lake trip of the year, it was very cool to use this smaller than average hook and smaller than average worm and catch a larger than average crappie. And it was cool to launch the boat from shore. Neither Matt nor I fell in the water or in the boat, so we don't need a Nordic track. And it was cool to be able to cast from shore without tangling on weeds in the water or being pestered by thousands of mosquitoes around our heads. And that'll be coming later in the season, though. And naturally, it was very cool to hook into and land a 13-inch crappie by the lip. And that evening, the taste of these fresh crappie fillets dipped in spicy flour and fried in butter. Oh, wow. Fishing is cool. That's all there is to it.